Welcome to Narrations, where we bring movies to life through storytelling, the sights, sounds, and feelings that remind us why cinema connects us all. Today's film is a delicious one. It's about passion, creativity, and rediscovering the joy of doing what you love, and the people who remind you who you are when you've forgotten. It's a story about second chances, fatherhood, and of course, food. This is Jefe, 2014, the flavorful journey of a man who loses everything, only to find himself again behind the wheel of a food truck. Carl Casper is a chef who lives for his kitchen. The clang of pans, the rhythm of chopping, the scent of butter hitting a hot pan, it's his orchestra, his heartbeat. He works at a prestigious Los Angeles restaurant, run by Riva, a man who believes the menu should never change because the regulars like what they know. Carl disagrees. He's restless. He wants to create, to push boundaries, to cook from instinct. But when you work under someone else's vision, passion starts to taste like frustration. He's also a father, divorced, distant, but trying. His 10-year-old son, Percy, lives with his ex-wife Inez. Carl loves his son deeply, but somewhere between kitchen shifts and deadlines, he's forgotten how to show it. Every weekend visit feels like he's trying to make up for lost time, and every goodbye feels heavier than the last. Inez sees it too. She still cares for Carl, but she's learned to keep love and disappointment in separate drawers. One morning, the restaurant buzzes with tension. A famous food critic, Ramsey Michel, is coming to dine, a man whose reviews can make or break a chef overnight. Carl wants to cook something new, something daring. He sketches ideas, balancing flavors in his mind like a composer balancing notes. But Riva shuts him down. "Stick to the classics," he says. "People love our menu." Carl protests, but Riva insists. The food critic gets the same dishes he's had for years. That night, Carl watches from the kitchen as Ramsey tastes each plate. The critic's face is calm, polite, but not impressed. Hours later, his review goes online. It's brutal. He calls the food boring, lazy, uninspired. He says Carl has lost his touch, a once great chef now cooking like he's asleep. The words cut deep. Carl reads the review again and again, each line heavier than the last. Percy tries to cheer him up the next day, showing him how social media works, how Twitter can connect people instantly. Carl doesn't really get it, but he laughs and lets his son set up an account for him. Later that night, fueled by pride and hurt, he tweets the critic, thinking it's a private message. It isn't. The tweet goes viral. He calls the critic out, challenges him to come back and try his food. When it's done right, the internet explodes. For a moment, Carl feels alive again. People are cheering him on, calling him brave, real. But when Ramsey returns to the restaurant expecting a showdown, Carl finds himself in the same trap. Riva refuses to let him change the menu. The critic arrives, expecting something new, and gets the same tired food. The tension builds. Ramsey tweets mid-meal. Carl can't take it anymore. He storms out of the kitchen, furious, confronting the critic in front of a packed restaurant. His voice shakes with rage and hurt as he tells Ramsey he's killing creativity, that he doesn't understand the heart behind the food. Phones record everything. The internet records everything. By the next morning, Carl's meltdown is everywhere. The shouting, the tears, the frustration, all replayed for millions to see. He becomes the meme of the week, the angry chef who couldn't take criticism. The restaurant fires him. His reputation burns faster than anything he's ever cooked. He tries to find another job, but no one wants him. In an age where one video can define you, his name is now a punchline. Inez sees the pain in him, though he hides it behind sarcasm and stubborn pride. She tells him to take a break, to spend time with Percy. She invites him to join her on a trip to Miami, where she's visiting family. Carl reluctantly agrees, not because he wants to relax, but because he doesn't know what else to do. In Miami, everything feels slower. The air is heavy with the smell of salt and sugar cane. Music spills from open doors, and every street feels alive. Carl and Percy walk through food markets filled with color and noise. For the first time in a long while, Carl isn't running a kitchen, he's just a man with his son, tasting life again. One afternoon, Inez introduces him to her ex-husband before Carl, Marvin, a successful businessman who owns a fleet of food trucks. Carl bristles at first, uncomfortable with the man's easy charm. But Marvin isn't trying to compete, he's trying to help. He offers Carl an old, beat-up food truck. "If you want it, it's yours," he says. Carl hesitates. A food truck feels like a step down from fine dining. But it also feels like freedom. He spends days scrubbing, painting, and fixing the truck, with Percy by his side. For the first time, father and son are really working together, sweating, laughing, arguing, bonding. They eat Cuban sandwiches from a nearby cafe, and Carl tastes something that reminds him why he ever started cooking in the first place: flavor, simplicity, love. He decides to make his own version, authentic Cuban sandwiches, pressed to perfection, served hot from the truck. The moment he takes that first bite, it's like the fire inside him reignites. He knows what he wants to do. He'll take this truck, drive it across the country, and cook from the heart. No restaurant rules, no critics, no menus forced upon him, just food that makes people happy. Carl calls his old friend Martin, a loyal sous chef who'd been with him through thick and thin. Martin immediately quits his job and flies out to join him. The two men set up the truck from scratch, laughing like kids on the first day of summer. Percy films everything, uploading videos, tweeting updates, unknowingly turning their small adventure into an online phenomenon. The first day they open, the line wraps around the block. People recognize Carl, the angry chef from the internet. But when they taste his food, everything changes. They don't see a failure anymore. They see a man doing what he loves. As the truck starts rolling, Carl feels something he hasn't felt in years: peace. The wind in his hair, music on the radio, his son beside him. It's not just a road trip, it's a rebirth. He's not chasing approval anymore. He's chasing flavor, honesty, joy. Back in Los Angeles, Reva sees photos online of Carl's truck trending. The critic sees them too. But Carl isn't thinking about either of them. For the first time in a long time, he's cooking for himself, and for the people who truly matter. The journey ahead is long, from Miami to New Orleans to Austin to LA, each stop a chance to rediscover what food, family, and second chances really taste like. And as the truck drives off into the Miami sunset, the sound of laughter, sizzling pork, and Cuban music fills the air. Carl smiles, his hands steady on the wheel, his heart finally quiet. For the first time in years, he's not running away from failure. He's driving towards something beautiful. The road stretches out before them like a promise, open, endless, and full of stories waiting to be told. The food truck hums along the Miami streets, its shiny new sign gleaming in the sunlight: El Jefe. Inside, Carl and Martin are all energy and laughter, tossing bread, sizzling pork, and spreading mustard like it's an art form. Percy sits near the window, filming on his phone, posting updates online with hashtags that begin to spread faster than they can cook. In Miami, the locals line up for blocks. The smell of roast pork and toasted Cuban bread drifts through the air, calling people in from the sidewalks. Carl smiles at each customer, handing over sandwiches like he's giving out pieces of his heart. He's not just feeding people anymore, he's connecting with them. It's what he'd been missing all along. That night, after closing, Carl and Martin sit on the truck's roof, tired and happy. Percy joins them, his eyes shining as he scrolls through the growing flood of tweets and comments. People are loving their food, their journey, their story. Without realizing it, Percy has become the heart of their marketing. A one-man social media storm turning El Jefe into a viral phenomenon. Carl looks at his son, pride swelling quietly in his chest. "You did this," he says softly. Percy grins, trying to hide how much those words mean. The next morning, they hit the road again, destination, New Orleans. As the truck rolls down highways lined with palm trees and gas stations, Carl feels free in a way he's never known. They make stops along the way, tasting local food, laughing with strangers, and sharing stories. Percy films everything, capturing not just the cooking but the joy in his father's eyes. When they reach New Orleans, the city greets them with rhythm and spice. Jazz pours from the streets, and the air smells like history. They park near a busy corner and start cooking, paboys and beignets with a twist of LG flair. The line forms fast. Locals dance to the music, tourists take photos, and for once, Carl isn't thinking about critics or reputation. He's just alive in the moment, cooking food that feels honest. Later that evening, as the sun dips low over the Mississippi, Carl takes Percy out for dinner. It's simple: oysters, gumbo, a small cafe table near the street. Percy talks about everything he's seen, everything he's learned. He says he wants to keep helping, to maybe even work with his dad full-time one day. Carl listens, amazed by how grown-up his son sounds. For years he thought Percy was a kid who didn't care. Now he sees that maybe he was the one not paying attention. In Austin, Texas, the road trip spirit is in full swing. The truck parks near a park where people gather for live music. Martin grills meat like a magician, Percy films the crowd, and Carl plates every sandwich with care. When they run out of food, people cheer. The sound fills the air, not applause for fame, but gratitude for flavor. It's pure joy. That night they sit outside under strings of lights, eating leftovers and listening to a local band. Percy dozes off against his father's shoulder, and Carl looks out at the stars. For the first time in years he feels steady. No shouting chefs, no critics, no pressure. Just love, food, and peace. The days blur into weeks. From one city to another, Jefe becomes a symbol of good food, of family, of second chances. Everywhere they go, people follow their journey online, cheering them on like old friends. It's not just about the sandwiches anymore. It's about the story, a father and son finding their way back to each other through food and the open road. Back in Los Angeles, Inez keeps track of their trip through Percy's posts. Every photo of her son smiling beside Carl brings a quiet warmth to her face. She always believed Carl had something special, not just as a chef but as a father. He just needed to see it too. When they finally pull into Los Angeles again, the city greets them like an old friend. Their reputation has traveled faster than they have. People are already waiting, lined up before they've even parked. Among the crowd is Ramsey Michel, the same critic whose review had once shattered Carl's world. Carl freezes for a moment, surprised but calm. He's not angry anymore. He's grown past that. Ramsey steps forward, smiling faintly, and orders a sandwich. He eats it quietly, savoring every bite. Then he looks at Carl and says, "Now this is what I was waiting for." He tells Carl that he never wanted to destroy him. He wanted to push him to create something from his heart again. For the first time, Carl sees the critic not as an enemy but as a mirror, someone who forced him to face his truth. They shake hands. Old wounds close quietly. Days later, the truck is busier than ever. Percy manages orders like a pro, Martin cracks jokes with customers, and Carl's focus stays sharp but peaceful. There's no chaos, no shouting, just rhythm. Every sandwich, every smile, feels like a small piece of redemption. Then, one afternoon, Ramsey returns, not for food this time, but with an offer. He wants to invest in Carl, to open a new restaurant together, one built on the same spirit as the truck: creativity, honesty, and soul. Carl hesitates, but only for a moment. He knows this time will be different. He'll run it his way. He'll keep his heart in it. Months later, the grand opening of the new restaurant arrives. The space is bright, full of music and laughter. The menu is simple but inspired, each dish telling a story from the road, flavors of Miami, New Orleans, Austin, and home. Percy helps in the kitchen, now wearing an apron proudly with Jefe stitched across the front. Inez is there too, watching the two of them with quiet pride. As the night goes on, Carl moves through the kitchen with calm confidence. Every sound, the hiss of the grill, the chatter of guests, the laughter from the dining room, feels like a song he's finally learned to play right. When he steps out to thank everyone, his eyes find Inez's. She smiles. He walks over. Words aren't needed. Sometimes, the heart just knows when it's found its way back. Later that night, the lights dim, the crowd thins, and Carl stands alone in the empty restaurant. He breathes in deeply, the scent of food and warmth filling his lungs. He thinks about where he started, the anger, the pride, the mistakes. Then he thinks about the road, the laughter, the music, the time with his son. Every mile, every sandwich, every moment brought him here. In the final scene, Carl and Inez remarry in a small, joyful ceremony surrounded by family and friends. Percy records it, grinning from ear to ear. Martin jokes about catering the wedding. Ramsay raises a glass, smiling quietly. And as the music plays, Carl takes Inez's hand, pulling her close. He whispers, "I'm home." It's not a story about fame or revenge. It's about rediscovery. About realizing that passion doesn't die, it just waits for you to catch up. About understanding that love, in family, in work, in food, isn't something you chase, it's something you nurture. Carl's journey reminds us that failure isn't the end. Sometimes it's just the start of the most beautiful chapter. And that's Jefe, a film seasoned with laughter, second chances, and the magic that happens when you follow your heart all the way home. If you enjoyed this narration, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more cinematic stories.